Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another OCC podcast. I'm your host, David Jansen, and joining me today is Dan Schwarz, the Nightmare. How are you doing, buddy?
Doing good, man. Thank you for having me on. Happy to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you on. Pleasure watching your show. You are a podcast host as well. You host I forget, what is it again? The something
Collaborate and collaborate and pull together podcast.
collaborate and pull together, which is amazing. Obviously, from that, you are an arm wrestler and stuff, but give us a bit of background as to what it was like growing up and kind of in what area or what state.
Sure. Yeah, I grew up in Long Island, New York. It is just about 40 minutes. My hometown's about 40 minutes east of Manhattan. Lived here my entire life. Haven't lived anywhere else. I've kind of traveled and bounced all over Long Island. Grew up in a pretty affluent area, but had a troubled teenage adolescence, if you may. Turned to a life of poor decisions and drug use, alcohol use, abuse were a huge part of it. And Never really found a place I can call home. Um, Had a lot of struggles with friends, making friends, keeping friends, people being genuine with me, learning what true loyalty was. So I did a lot of bouncing around. Wasn't sure what I wanted to do with my life. Found a love for cooking because I grew up. My mom, she's Puerto Rican, and she taught me how to cook at an early age, and I enjoyed doing that to the point where I started to pursue myself a career of that myself. I started as a dishwasher. I think I was 15 years old or something like that as a dishwasher out of like this park cafe type of deal, and then worked my way up and then became like the main cook there. Then hit my head in the ceiling with income and wanting to make more money, so I got myself into an actual restaurant. And again, started from the bottom, worked my way up, and I became ultimately a sous chef at a restaurant for a little bit of time. Did some culinary programs in a high school out of a BOCES program, and furthered my skills and learned a little bit more about the industry there. Um, but then I started to really hate the long hours, and it definitely the kitchen is not a friendly place for somebody who has an addiction problem. It got worse and worse and worse. And then I got clean for a little while in my adolescence, my later adolescence at 19, through a treatment center program, it was in an outpatient type of deal. Um, and went back into cooking again, started cooking for hospital system actually, and enjoyed doing that to a certain degree, but I really just hated the industry. I reminded myself why I didn't like it and why it was a bad environment for my mindset. Started to branch out looking for other careers, and actually, again, my mom was an inspiration here. She suffers from a rare joint disorder called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, where it's like an autoimmune disease where your body attacks the joints within it and almost disintegrates it. She's had at this point two multiple shoulder replacement surgeries, multiple knee replacement surgeries, as well as most recently, both her hands were reconstructed by the same doctor did Mike Tyson's hands, because she has silicone implants. So she was in a lot of pain. And at the time, as I said, I was a cook. Um, I did not know anything about healing with my hands whatsoever. So she had asked, "Can you massage my hands? It hurt. I have no idea what to do." She was thinking about like kneading dough or something. Just be gentle. And so I was, and she said I did a better job than her own physical therapist, who had like 35 years of experience or something like that. And I was like, okay, there might be something to this. I'm looking for a way out of my job in the kitchens, and I need to find something different. I need to change of pace. And I found there was a massage therapy school about like 20 minutes away from my home. And I was like, the writing's on the wall here. So I jumped into that and found my place with massage therapy for a while. But then, because I really wasn't taking care of myself mentally, because so focused on work and focused on getting it done, I slipped back into addictive behaviors and started using again. And during that time, I met my now wife, and um, we met all the way on the east end of Long Island, which is called Montauk. They call it the End, and we ended up having a kid. He's now 11, but so as time went on, I found that I was getting overweight, physically overweight, and was not taking care of myself physically anymore either. Even though I was still actively being a massage therapist, I wasn't taking care of myself. And fast forward, my son's about 5 or 6, just after the COVID lockdown. Um, and he asked me to teach him how to ride a bicycle, and I couldn't physically. I couldn't keep up with him. I'd run about 15 feet. I was grotesquely overweight. I was like about 270 pounds. Now, mind you, I'm 5 foot 8.5, 9, on a good day. Um, and could not keep up with him. I was gasping for air. Had to feel like I was having a heart attack every 10, 15 feet that I would try to run with him. Sat down, and the kid comes up and he goes, Dad, he puts his hand on my shoulder. Dad, let's do this when you're feeling better one day. That was it. That lit a fire under me. I was like, I need to get healthy now. And I jumped into being gluten free, went keto, paleo, did a combination of all the diets. And because I was a cook and had a cooking background, I was able to successfully do that for myself. Um, and apply all the knowledge that I had about food, and what to eat, what not to eat. And I structured a couple of, workout routines thanks to my wife because she's a yoga instructor, and she understands fitness pretty well. She helped guide me in creating a world where I got more fit. But I didn't just want to be fit; I wanted to be strong. And I remembered I actually had gone to the Renaissance Fair a couple of years prior. So mind you, this was like in 2020, but like about 2019, early 2019, I went to the Renaissance Fair. I don't know if you're familiar with that. But a
I've
buddy
heard
of
of them,
mine.
but I don't know them.
Okay, so Renaissance fairs were a bunch of people dressed up in barbarian outfits, and they, again, it was not a great place for a person with addictions. A lot of drinking, a lot of nefarious activities happening, and I definitely partaked in a lot of them. Got some crazy stories, but the one positive that came out of it was I got introduced to arm wrestling there, and I had never seen an arm wrestling table. Um, got second place with no experience in this arm wrestling event that they had. And, because I got caught up in life, I didn't think about it. So fast forward back to 2020, I had watched Game of Arms during the lockdown. And then I realized I reached out to people like Mike Aiello and a couple other, arm wrestling groups on Long Island. Just find out there's a pretty large community here. I'm like, whoa, there's something here. Let me dive a little further. And, that was helping me with maintaining my weight loss goals because I saw there's weight classes. Huh. Weight classes and weight loss. I need to lose weight to get strong and be healthy. So let me see how well I can do. And at that point in time, I met characters like Paul Italia, who happens to have a house not too far away from Long Island. And he actually said, I think you'd be really good at the 154, 176 weight class. I was about like 190, 198 at the time. And he inspired me to drop that weight and get to where I'm at today. And I've been in love with the sport ever since, man. 'Cause as I said, it gave my loss goals direction. It gave my recovery even more direction, something to keep me accountable. Accountability is crucial in my life today, and helps me push forward.
That's amazing. So going forward, you lost a bunch of weight. You got into recovery and stuff. That's awesome, man. Super always interested in hearing stories like that and hearing good come out of like an issue where there's something going on that's taking so much of a person's life where they can have a great life. Coming from Puerto Rico and stuff, are you Hispanic then? Do you speak Spanish?
I'm not fluent in Spanish, but I do. I can get by. A lot of them say that I sound like a jibaro, which is a hillbilly, because my Spanish is very broken. But I do visit Puerto Rico pretty often. I have a lot of family down there. I was actually just before the show, I was speaking to my cousin, and he's working with me to try to get me to speak Spanish a little bit more, and I'm furthering his concepts of English and adulthood because he just turned 22. So we're helping each other out tremendously in that regard. I love the heritage of Puerto Rico, and I want to learn more of it.
That's awesome. It's always great to know your heritage and stuff. So going into a little bit of arm wrestling and stuff, you said a couple years prior you had been at this fair and then you had arm wrestled and stuff. Kind of give us a background to how you pulled and stuff, because a lot of people see from either whether they arm wrestled in school or whether in the bar and stuff, it's a lot of sideways motion. And then obviously now, as you've been arm wrestling a while, there is always that factor of sideways motion because you have to pin the opponent. But there is so many other factors that go into it many times before going sideways. Kind of give us how you did at that tournament to take second place, and then how you went forward learning your style now.
So I got to start off with saying I've been a licensed massage therapist for 15 years. And being a massage therapist has given me ridiculously strong hands and wrists to begin with. So I came into this sport, I came into that experience with a strong hand and wrist. And I realized I was able to hold them in a position that I can comfortably just kind of move them over. Now, I remember my first time I grabbed the peg, my arm was literally resting, my peg arm was resting on the table, and I was just doing this motion, right? And while I pretty much was just using pure side pressure, and looking back, I'm like, wow, I risked a lot of injuries doing that. Um, but I was also much bigger and I had a lot much more weight behind me, so I was able to kind of, I guess, keep myself squared up at the table. Now, originally, when I first came into the sport, everyone said, "Oh, you'd be really good at hooking. You've got that short lever, that strong wrist. You'd be able to, you know, get in." But I lacked a lot of bicep strength. I did not come in with a lot of it because of my hand and wrist being stronger. I relied on that, and I got to tell you, my first 8 months, 9 months, there wasn't any match that I won. I won zero matches. Something clicked afterwards. I had a training with Paul Lynn, and he had come out to Long Island to run a seminar at Dick's Sporting Goods. And he's like, "Hey, I think because you're a strong hand and wrist, you should really learn how to do a defensive top roll." And he showed me like just the basics on how to do it. And something inside my head clicked. In the very next tournament, I did clean sweeps both right and left hand. I went from not winning anything to that one little lesson that I learned from Paul. Was able to kill it, and that was actually the same tournament that I competed at 176 for the first time ever too. So it was kind of like after that, that lit the fire even further. I was like, I gotta keep this energy going. Like where can I take this thing, because this is kind of cool. You know, and so I became a very powerful, strong top roller for a while. And it really, when it comes to the hand and wrist, it really does cater. You need a strong hand and wrist for a strong top roll. If you don't have that, you're gonna fall short a little bit. So I have literally every hand tool that I've ever used, during my arm wrestling career, literally at my fingertips. Everywhere I go, I bring it to my pockets, bring it on vacations, bring it to work, in between my clients. Even though I'm still working my hands, my clients, I am working my hand and wrist as much as I possibly can.
Yeah, and so defensive top roll is obviously an amazing move to take to a tournament and stuff, because there's so many different angles that you can go and stuff. Kind of give us a run how you've been doing going different tournaments. I know now on your Collaborate and Pull Together podcast, you've been pushing a lot for the Mac style of arm wrestling, which is a new table and created by Ian Carnegie or a group of guys and stuff. And then now this last weekend, there was the first official Tough Game, which is Team Arm Wrestling Federation, held by the Table Monkeys, which is a branch off of Mac kind of. And I know you really promote that and stuff. I know you've been at the event, the main event 3. I think that was Mac 3, you had a match. Kind of give us how it was getting a match there, pulling that. Kind of give us a bit of background how you feel.
So I am a predominantly a top roller, right? So after actually sustaining a little injury in my wrist where rotating back, I kind of got stuck in that swan neck position and somebody hit really hard and really jacked up the outer wrist. Um, I didn't have like any like real tears or anything. Just it just was really painful to pull. So I had to learn how to hook. And shout out to Dustin Jetliff for kind of teaching me the fundamentals of a hook because I feel strong in the hook, but I'm still very uncoordinated, very much so. With that being said, I had the opportunity of pulling with the Danimal, Labrie, um, the up in the Ottawa Open after pull of the Ottawa Open at his clubhouse over at the Ottawa High Hookers because I went to the Ottawa Open in 2023 and I got third place and he was in a class below me. He got first, and so we wanted to pull, and I was literally matching him to the table. Both him and I were kind of stalemating a little bit, and so I always wanted to pull with him. And push came to shove. Finally, I got connected with Mac. I had Ian Carnegie on my show with JJ Jackson, which I've gotten to meet a few times at this point. I really liked their energy, and I was like, tell them, listen, I want a shot. Give me a shot. I really want to try this different style of table. It looks so interesting and it's so exciting. It doesn't look like your normal table. Arm wrestling tables to me look like just tables with pads on it, whereas a mat table looks like a table you actually arm wrestle with, right? It's built for the sport of arm wrestling. And so I was like really intrigued as somebody who's all about body mechanics and somebody who's eager about, things that are ergonomic. I was very thrilled about, the product. So in promoting them early, I was like, listen, I'll take anybody you throw at me. I don't care what their skill level is. Give me anybody. They threw me to the wolves. You got to be careful what you wish for, right? And they threw me to the wolves, and I had the match with Danimal, and Danimal is a monster. He's an absolute beast. I got to say, he was more well prepared than I was. Who he trains with. He's the club owner of Ottawa High Hookers, right? You got Devin Lorette there. You got all those guys that are up there that are of that caliber to train with. And so, yeah, I was definitely a fish out of water. Lost 3-0. And yeah, it was a learning experience, definitely, because, I since went to what's it called? A few other tournaments and events, and I've done fairly well on a standard table. But one of the things is, as with anything else, is you get used to doing something a certain way, right? On a regular standard arm wrestling table, it's going to take adjustment, take some time to get used to the MAC table, because not for nothing, the tournament after the no elimination tournament, which shout out to Jason Castanini for that format. I actually was undefeated left-handed in that event, same Mac 3's event. So it took a little bit of time for me to figure out, okay, I had to go through the right hand, and I think I got like fourth or fifth place the right hand. But then I was like, wait, I'm not doing something right with my right hand. Let me see if I can change something up with a game plan on the left. And I changed it up, and I went undefeated left-handed. And I beat the likes of like Dan Plexman left-handed, and a couple other big guys from Canada. And I was like, okay, there's something to this. I need more time on this. And luckily, one of my teammates came up to Mac 3 with me, really loved the table himself to the point where he actually ended up buying one. So our club has one table at that point in time. And he's now involved in Mac as much as I am, and he's loving the energy that Mac tables have. And he's fairly new to the sport to begin with, so he doesn't have that much experience. So he's He's getting his feet wet big time. Dan Cinchella, Dan the Hat Cinchella. If you're watching, he's a great dude, great guy. He's behind the camera almost at every event now. You probably see him. He's a stapled name, which is cool. And so that was my first Mac event experience. First time I met the big stage with Mac, and it was an honor to be there because the energy there was unreal.
Yeah, it's awesome. I met Dan recently at the Mac Challenger Series 3 in London, Ontario, which was an awesome event. Segueing off of that, I know you have mentioned that you have you are teaming up with the Mac to do your own Challenger Series in your area. Tell us a bit about that.
So I'm loving the idea of the Challenger Series. So but before I get into that, I wanted to shout out Brown Rice. That's my second loss on the Mac table that I took because it was at the Challenger Series 2 up in Rochester. So what this is an opportunity, to prove yourself, improve your worth, prove your mettle, to get onto a Mac numbered event or tough, like you mentioned. You mentioned tough. Um, if you do exceptionally well at one of these Challenger series, your name gets put into a pool of athletes that they're going to consider for these bigger, better events. And I love the idea of a pathway to progression, and I love being able to facilitate that. So Dan and I said, "Hey, listen, I host an annual event once a year, and this last year." I transitioned it from being just a super match only event and a large practice to a super match event with a no elimination tournament all on the Mac table. And because we already have one, we're like, hey, why don't we run our own challenger series? Well, we only have one table. Well, guess what? That's changing soon because I have an order in for a second Mac table. We're going to have two Mac tables here on Long Island. Um, and we're going to be using both of them for our Challenger Series coming up November 8th. We are bringing it to a place called the Fit Factory. It's in Bohemia, New York. And this is a person who we connected with when we were at a rock festival. We brought the Mac table to a rock festival and like, hey, I've seen arm wrestling, but I've never seen this. And so we got to talk to them about how Mac runs and the viewability, the connectivity you have with the table, as well as with viewers being able to actually enjoy the show. Um, it's it's a big difference to standard arm wrestling, right? I know you got to experience it yourself. It's a complete night and day experience. I don't know how long you've been in the sport, but I like it better than other table arm wrestling.
I like them both. They both have their benefits and their positive and their negative, I would say. I don't like that Ian raised the pin pad. That's my opinion, and everyone can do with that as they please. He built it. It's up to him. He wants it to have it that way. He believes it's going to be better. There's less risk factor involved in injury and stuff. So, yeah, that's on him. Other than that, I think the table's a great setup and stuff. I like the idea of having the dip in the table for the elbow foul, so that you're taking pressure off of the referees. With what happens a lot of times with the your normal WAF table is you'll tell the referees it's okay for a little elbow hop or something, and then what happens is one referee judges it different than the other referee, right? And so then you're putting that risk factor on the referee, when in the Mac table it literally has to come out of that dip to have so that you can view if it's an elbow foul or not. So I really like that. I think Ian did something awesome with that. I think the bigger pad is awesome. You can do a lot. I do think, though, it gives a little bit more of an advantage to certain pulling styles than maybe others. But and then, but my biggest thing is I wish they would drop the pin pad to 2 inches, like your WAF style.
Well, I gotta say with that, one of my least favorite moves is the King's move, and it helps eliminate. I wouldn't say completely, but eliminates the accessibility to the King's move as being a default move.
The
Um,
the Mac table.
yeah, I'd say it does. I think it
I
lessens it.
I think it actually makes it easier.
Well, because it's quicker to pin. You'll get in the King's move, and then all of a sudden you're pinned. Though,
Yeah, you're
you know what I mean?
but
So
that is
because you're that much closer.
because it's a 3 inch pin pad and not a 2 inch. If it was a 2 inch pin pad, you could kings move on that table 10 times better than any other. Right now, already, because you can go farther back, like all the way to the edge of the table, you can already still stick the king's move really well.
Absolutely, but if you have that long lever and you have somebody who's able to follow and drop down on it, that's going to be a quicker pin and less of a because like you have that less inch less of wiggle room, if you may. Whereas King's move relies on that wiggle room, right, to burn out there and pull it and burn them out tremendously. So I don't like the King's move first and foremost. I actually not a fan of it. It's annoying. I do know how I've learned how to deal with it and handle it to a degree, and it's unfortunate. So I got a funny story about Mac 3 against Danimal. So normally one of my rituals is I use a CBD cream, just purely CBD cream to kind of put in my elbow just to help, increase blood flow, but also decrease inflammation. It's a great process that I recommend a lot of people to do. Um, but this time it wasn't lotion. Sorry, it wasn't a cream that I had because the cream absorbs really quickly. Doesn't make my hands greasy. This time I used a lotion, which had a lot of oil in it. And literally every time I tried getting height on the grip, my hand would just slide right back down. So as I'm trying to get height to get that press in that first round, he was just comfortably sitting there holding, and I'm struggling just to get that height, and he was comfortably burning me the hell out, and I lost everything out of that first round because of that. So make sure if you're gonna use a product, you use the right one. um, because it's definitely makes a world of difference. And it pissed me off that is like a rookie error almost, on a big stage like that.
Yeah, that definitely is a major error. Yeah, we have a couple comments. Mike, which is he's as Coolio135, but that's Mike, a good buddy of mine. He says he thinks that Mac lets you kings move more and hook better.
Hook better, definitely. I think hooking is if you are a dominant hook puller, it shows, and I think it's more specifically like a high hook, because you're able to get that height that you need a little bit more. I think one of the things that the table feels a little bit higher up. So when you go to try to do a top roll setup, it's really challenging to match that height, especially if you're short armed like me, right? Um, but there's ways around it. There's ways around it. I'm discovering them day in, day out because we have a table and we do run drills and people running into King's Move or really open top roll, or, running into a hook with me type of deal. So, I ain't ready to face the guys that beat me yet, but the day is coming. The day is definitely coming.
Yeah, shout out to the Lucky Ones podcast. Hey, Lucky. Yeah,
Hey,
no,
Lucky.
I think that the Mac is obviously something really great, and those are minor factors. I think
Yeah.
on the when you look at the other arm wrestling tables, the WAF and stuff, there are more things that I could point out than just two or so things that I dislike. But I like arm wrestling on them because I'm used to that. What were your thoughts on this Saturday's tough event?
It was exciting. It was fun. It was action packed. They didn't have much downtime. You know, and they explained everything for the people who don't know what the hell they're watching. I think arm wrestling on that platform is going to generate more interest into the sport than anything else that we've seen to date. Um, Bring new interest. People who were kind of like, the people walking by, like, hey, that looks interesting. All right, I see it, but I'm gonna keep going. people are actually going to stop what they're doing, look at what's going on, be like, whoa, oh, that's how you get points? Oh, wow. That's a gamble? Oh, wow. He just scored 15 points with pinning that guy once. He just evened the odds. How did he do that? And then, it makes you more interested. It gets you a little bit more involved. Oh, wait, hey, that guy represents my city. That's another side of it, too, that I think it's very exciting. And, not for nothing, part of TOF will be actually we're going to have one of the top games here on Long Island. We have the Long Island Raiders, so I'm excited to be a part of that and see where that goes. Time's going to tell what happens with that because I got definitely a lot of other things in between now and then. But um, I love it. I love the top. Jason Constantini is one of the nicest dudes ever. Very thorough in his explanation. Very passionate about what he's got going on with that. He came down, helped me out on my first no elimination tournament, and I gotta say, if it wasn't for him, I would be still trying to figure out where everything goes, type of deal.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. Yeah, he's a really great dude and stuff. I really enjoyed watching it. I couldn't watch it all. We had Thanksgiving dinner with some of our family.
Oh yeah, happy Thanksgiving to you guys.
Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, I was a little busy, but where I could, I watched it and I really enjoyed it. I like the point system. I've been following along and stuff. And what I think is really going to catch people is, like you said, this person represents or this team represents our city or our province or our state or whatever, right? So people can really get behind that because if it's just one random arm wrestler that they don't know, whatever. But now if a whole team is like Toronto Smoke or as like you're gonna say New York Raiders or whatever, they're like, what? These are guys from New York? Like they're like interested and they're like our team technically because they're gonna be like from New York, they're like is just beating that other guy. Look, they got 70 points, the other team's got 30 points only, and it's like, holy crap, like and he beat him so easily, but yeah, that dude's bigger than him and like, and what? Now they do a left arm match after they did a right arm match, and the same guy's up again because you can do that exchange and like different
Yeah.
styles make different matches, and then you might have a smaller guy going against a bigger guy, and it being a really close match, or depending on the foul and stuff, people understand that if one guy fouls, then he loses a point, and the other team gains it and stuff if he wins and stuff. People can really get behind that. And I think that's interesting. I think if it gets put in the right hands, gets seen by the right people, I think it'll really gain attraction, gain traction and stuff. And I think that's huge.
Without a doubt. I think it's going to be, it is the future of the sport. The future is here and it's now, and it's TOF. TOF is one of the pinnacles, and I say one because I think there's multiple pinnacles in the sport, right? And, the MAC tables isn't going to be the only pinnacle that we have. We have other ones that are emerging or re emerging or maintaining their heights. And I think the one thing that this is proving is that there's room for it all to grow, right? I think this is going to rise the tide and all the ships are going to benefit because every form of arm wrestling is going to get a little bit more interest now thanks to TOF doing what they're doing.
Well, yeah, and I think it doesn't take away from anything else. It actually benefits others because people are going to see now you don't just see a single super match and stuff. You see different players within a short amount of time. So if you absolutely dislike how one guy arm wrestles and stuff, well, you only got to wait 30 seconds or 2 minutes and you have a completely different match.
Yeah,
Like just be,
absolutely.
it's not like you have a match with maybe somebody enjoys watching Hermes, but they hate watching Michael Todd, but now they got to watch a half-hour match before the next match starts. No, you're
Yeah,
watching John Terrian, Pork Chop, BLM. You're watching Alan Ford. You see Mike Gould off to the side, a legend. You see a bunch of guys, Alexander Koshadze, like all these guys that are new up and comers, and you've heard their name, but you don't know how they match up. And then you see that Alexander Koshadze gives at least a decent match to John Therian on the left hand. Yes, he's a smaller guy, but everyone already kind of knows John Terrian because he's been at East versus West and stuff. And they're like, whoa, he's insane. And now this smaller dude like actually made it hard to pin him and stuff. And so like people are like, well, that was interesting. Now what's happening with the next match? Oh, Alan Ford takes Pork Chop's hand, but Pork Chop still pins him decently, relevantly, easily. They're like, whoa, Alan Ford definitely a lot skinnier than Pork Chop, but that guy's got so much brute force. And then it keeps going on. They're like, I don't know any of these guys from Montreal. And then they're just blast Rick Heiderbrick like nothing.
Yeah.
And you're like, I thought Rick Heiderbrick was incredible.
Yeah.
And then it was
No,
like this other dude's just like walks through him, like, and you're like, oh shit.
there's monsters everywhere, right? And it's awesome to give that level of investment to every person who's the casual watcher, to the people who are very tuned in to these pullers, right? And tuned into the sport of arm wrestling. I think it really does check off almost every single box that we would ever want for the fan of arm wrestling.
Yeah, and then I really also, as you've already mentioned multiple times, but the no elimination tournament, I think it's a great way for a tournament. I understand your double elimination or whatever, your single elimination stuff, but so many times what happens then is depending on the style, right? You might have a complete different style matchup and you get destroyed. But you could have been like the top 2 or 3 rank in that whole thing, but you got put up against a guy that just could beat you easily and you didn't have a chance. You got up in a couple, you half a minute or whatever, they called your name again, you got put up, you were a little bit tired, you couldn't make it again. And then you got eliminated from the tournament. And then somebody that is no way supposed to take second place because he's weaker than everyone else
He has
takes
a little more
second place.
stamina.
Yep.
He's got a little more
And,
stamina, and yeah,
and
absolutely.
then the no elimination tournament is awesome. If you have a bracket of like 10 people, you split it in two. They fight each other. The top 2 guys with the highest points meet up and have a best of 2 or best of 3, and like whoever wins those is now your winner, depending on how the points and everything match up. And so, yeah, I think what Jason's done with that's awesome. And different people are like, whoa, it's a no elimination tournament. So what if there's 30 people in the bracket, you have to pull all 30? Not necessarily.
No,
It
no,
still gets split up into brackets, and then there's kind of like an A side and a B side, and then they come up, and then you have the two. It's like a 2A brackets and stuff, and the top guys meet and stuff. But everyone still kind of gets to pull everyone. You're still going to have multiple matches and really be able to show your best. You're going to have the stamina pullers that can really pull it off. They're going to last to the end. You're going to have the guys that can really bang quick and stuff. But it's going to kind of even out the farther the matches go and stuff.
absolutely. I mean, one of the things that being on Long Island, people are always complaining about cost of travel. There's a lot of tolls. There's a lot of traffic. There's a lot of this, that, and the other. The drivers here in New York suck. It's the truth. They do. But if you travel for X amount of hours, 2, 3, 4, 5 hours, whatever, and you go for a 2-0 or an 0-2 event and you're out, it's like, why did I travel this far for this? Right? Whereas, for no elimination, you travel, you still get the pull. Doesn't matter if you've lost the first 2. You can win the next handful of matches and still possibly win that class. You could lose the first 2, but if everyone else loses their first 2 and then you defeat everyone else, guess what? You're going to be doing better than anyone else is. And then with the point system, it kind of helps even the odds as well, because you can collect more points on a high level of pins. To a flash pin, you get an extra point. If you pin with no fouls, you're doing well. You pin with fouls, you lose one of the points. So like that allows for very tactical pullers too. Because let's say I'm going against somebody who's I know is going to destroy me. Guess what? I'm going to try to make them foul as much as I can. Even though I can't pin them, I'm going to try to make them foul. So that way, that win, even though I know they're going to win on me, is a little worth a little bit less because then the next guys, I'm going to flash pin the hell out of them. So there's a lot of tactics involved in those type of no elimination tournaments too. So I love it. I love that format.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Give us a bit of other things that you got coming up towards the end of the year and maybe tournaments that you're going to be hitting off next year with.
So upcoming is my birthday. My birthday is October 30th. But before that, a buddy of mine, it's actually a Twin State Tournament of Terror up in Vermont. It's going to be the first one. They're going to have Chris Michaels versus this Polish guy. I can't remember his name for the life of me. Is their headlining match and a handful of other matches. But they're running a tournament there October 25th. Then October 30th is my birthday. I'm doing a King of the Table Last Man Standing concept that Matt Connolly from Australia gave to me. Really going to be a fun, fast-paced event. It's going to be on a Mac table. It's going to be pretty much a power hour of King of the Table. It's going to be a timed format. The only time the clock gets paused is when people are getting strapped up. But if you foul, you lose your rotation, and it's going to be the next person in rotation. So it's going to be just a flow of arm wrestling for a full hour. So it's going to be another action-packed concept that I'm going to implement on my birthday. Then November 8th is going to be our Challenger Series here on Long Island. It's going to be at the Fit Factory.
How
And
many super
then,
matches are you having at that?
so as of right now, I think we have about 20 confirmed. We're trying to, with people with Mac events, if you want a match, anybody wants a match from Canada, we have a large group of people who are looking, all different weight classes, all different experiences, from seasoned pros to guys that are, looking to get into the pros, to guys who have been, you know, arm wrestling for about a year or two, and they're looking to get more experience on a Mac table and the Ready Go experience. So please reach out to myself, reach out to Dan Centrella or Blake Bullion. He's helping us out on the Canada side. So reach out to any one of us. We'll be happy to help you out, get a match. Because we want to fill up the card. The standard for Mac is trying to get 50 matches for these Challenger Series. So we're not terribly far away from that event happening, so the sooner the better. We got people lined up, ready to go. They're just looking for somebody from out of town. And let's see what else we got. Oh, at the end of next month is November 29th at the Monster Factory. I'm taking on Jake Houston. I am on the undercard there. I'm looking forward to that. That's gonna be a lot of fun. Um, I gotta say, that's going to be a big punch up here in the States. He's a very well recognized, well seasoned arm wrestler and strong dude. It's an honor to be able to face him and have the opportunity to do so at the Monster Factory, which is a pretty cool that he's bringing that back this year, and I get to be a part of that. Next in December, I was originally going to be going to Washington State, but due to family issues, I wasn't able to make it there. Going to Monster Factory got paid for by sponsors for me. Um, Shout out to my sponsors, Matt Cassioli of Haven Physical Therapy and Legion of Arms. He's an amazing arm wrestler, ref, and promoter of the sport. Good friend of mine. New York Cryogen Incorporated. If you guys ever follow me on Instagram or Facebook, you'll see that I get this pressurized cryotherapy. He's a massive help. And the Natty Boys up in New England, they are a really strong YouTube channel and social media influencers. They're helping me out as well to get down to Arkansas. I was not able to secure the same thing for Washington, and because of family health issues, I wasn't able to go. So unfortunate. Sorry, Steve West. We'll have our match at some point. But locally, there is something I can't divulge as of yet that's coming down the pipeline. Something big that I'm hoping to be a part of. And then next year, the only real big thing, two big things for next year. It's going to be my sixth annual summer kickoff event where we're going to probably be pairing that with the TOF Long Island versus Detroit event. That's going to be happening at some point in late spring, early summer. And then before that, I'm going to try to make it to IFA Nationals in April. April 25th is my next big outing because I want to collect myself a national title.
Awesome,
Okay.
awesome.
Getting ready for it.
Yes, sir. It sounds like you got a lot coming up, and it's been a pleasure having you on the show. Let everyone kind of know where they can find you to follow you and follow your journey on social media.
Sure. On Instagram, I'm Dan the Nightmare. YouTube, same thing. Dan the Nightmare. Daniel Schwartz on Facebook. Also, collaborate and pull together on Facebook. If you Google that, you'll find me any which way. I'm on also TikTok, Dan Nightmare of New York. I don't use that often, but any platform that you guys want to reach out, if you have any questions, you want to get on my show, collaborate, pull together. We are running it now because of my new work schedule, twice a month, on Sunday evenings at around 8 o'clock. So I love to have you, David, on my show as well, and get to know you a little bit more, and talk about Canadian arm wrestling around your neck of the woods.
I would love to come on. You let me know when, and we'll just have to make it work.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
Well, thanks for coming on.